Hello and welcome to Talking Politics with Nistula Hebbar, which comes at the end of a fiery monsoon session which saw a no confidence motion being voted on and being defeated against the Modi government, and possibly for the first time in the history of independent India, the suspension of the leader of the largest opposition party in the Lok Sabha. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary was suspended from the Lok Sabha till pending an inquiry by the Privileges Committee for some unseemly intemperate language that was used by him against Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But on a day that Prime Minister Narendra Modi responded to the debate on the motion of no confidence, incidentally, the longest reply ever given by an Indian Prime Minister in response to a no confidence motion. He beat late Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri's record in the 60s of speaking for 2 hours and 12 minutes by 1 minute. He spoke for 2 hours and 13 minutes. He won that debate, but there was another significant event that was taking place in the other House of Parliament, which is the House of the States, the Rajya Sabha, where the government and the Law Minister introduced the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners' appointments, conditions of service and term of office bill 2023, and this will be the subject of this episode of Talking Politics. As I said earlier, we will be talking about the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners' appointment, conditions of service and term of office bill of 2023, as it was introduced at the fag end of the monsoon session and immediately created an uproar among opposition members who said that the changes proposed in the bill, in the way that the CEC and other election commissioners are to be appointed, will undermine the constitutional position enjoyed by the ECI and its chiefs, making it vulnerable to the government of the day. So let us first look at the background and the specific provisions of the bill which have set off this uproar amongst the opposition. Well, it all started in March this year, when a 5-judge constitution bench unanimously ruled that a 3-member panel of the Prime Minister, the Leader of Opposition and the Chief Justice of India will pick the Chief Election Commissioner of the country and other election commissioners till a relevant law be enacted by Parliament. They were responding to a petition that was filed, which said that there is no proper way of, there is no selection committee, there is no proper way of appointing the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners. Currently, the CECs and ECs have been appointed by the President of India at the recommendation of the centre. So there was a petition which challenged that. So the 5-judge constitution bench said, all right, for the time being, before Parliament brings in a bill, because only the Parliament is entitled to make laws, so till the Parliament brings in a bill or passes a bill, we will basically have a committee where the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition and the Chief Justice of India will sit together and decide who the next CEC, EC and the other ECs are going to be. Well, the government, on receipt of this judgment, therefore brought a legislation to fill in this constitutional vacuum. They said, okay, there is nothing there. There was a petition. Somebody was bothered about it. And the Supreme Court has come out with its judgment and has said that till we come out with the bill, they have set up a panel. So here is the bill. This is what we want to do to fill in that legislative vacuum. So the new bill sets up a committee consisting of the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition, and if there is no Leader of the Opposition, then the Leader of the largest opposition party can also be recommended or can also be nominated to that panel, and the third member will be a cabinet minister, that is somebody from the Council of Ministers holding cabinet rank. So the CGI's participation has been weeded out in this instance, and the government would have a decisive say in the appointment of the CEC. Now, before any of the names come before this selection panel, there will be a forward search committee under the headship of the Cabinet Secretary, who will be looking at likely candidates with a good reputation, who are secretary level people, and will make a short list of about 5 people and recommend those that the next CEC or EC should be selected from among these 5 people. Although the bill says that if the committee wants, it can also consider people whose names are not on the search committee's list. But what has really got the opposition and many others roiled about the bill is the fact that the employment conditions of the CEC and ECs in terms of status and precedence has been downgraded from that of a Supreme Court judge to that of a cabinet secretary. Although salary-wise, this will not make a difference, nor has any change been made to the length of service, length of tenure of the CEC, which is 65 years or 6 years at the helm, whichever is earlier. But the downgrade in status will directly impact the CEC's powers to summon the cabinet secretary and other secretaries for election-related meetings. Currently, the CEC is well within his power to summon the cabinet secretary. It's never the other way around. It's not the CEC who will go and meet the cabinet secretary or other secretaries. They have to go to Nirvachan Sadan in New Delhi to meet the CEC and make themselves available for these meetings to discuss arrangements for elections, etc., etc. And the rank of CECs and ECs will fall even below that of junior ministers in the government. So Supreme Court judges rank higher, and junior ministers, the ministers of state, are lower in precedence. But with this change, the CECs will come far below the junior ministers of the Council of Ministers. Now, this is also at variance with the powers accorded to the CEC and the ECI itself under Article 324 of the Constitution with respect to the conduct of elections, and provides for the removal of the CEC only by an impeachment process in Parliament. That's how protected a CEC is if he is to conduct elections in India. In terms of government protocol and order of precedence, which anybody knows in Sarkari circles is very, very important. It basically decides what deference you get, not just formally but also informally in government circles. Well, in the order of precedence, the CEC will fall from the 9th spot to the 11th. So in state functions, etc. And it may also affect the Z category security that is currently accorded to the CEC. The moment the bill was introduced by Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal, the opposition raised grave objections to it. Reactions blew thick and fast. AICC General Secretary Jairam Ramesh posted on social media site X a letter written by former Deputy Prime Minister of India, Mr. L.K. Advani. He's a senior BJP leader who had written in 2012, in the June of 2012, a letter to then Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, wherein he said that the selection of the heads of constitutional bodies like the Election Commission should be on a bipartisan basis. He also suggested possibly the CJI being involved in the process in a selection committee like that, and to remove any impression of bias or lack of transparency or fairness. So when BJP was in the opposition, it spoke the language of the current opposition on this kind of a bill. Mr. Ramesh further said that the CEC selection committee proposed by the new bill in its current form will ensure executive interference with its 2:1 dominance of the committee. So you have Prime Minister and you have the cabinet, another cabinet minister, which is the treasury side, and then you have one leader of the opposition who possibly will be outnumbered in case he dissents, and apart from writing a dissent note, there is really nothing much that can be done. So in the previous arrangement suggested by the courts, the CJI, the Prime Minister and the leader of opposition, they would have to come to a consensus decision. CPIM General Secretary Sitaram Yechuri in fact went a step further, and he alleged, and I quote, that the Modi government seems to ape Israel's extreme right-wing government's efforts to make judiciary subservient. The Constitution of India mandates an impartial election commission to conduct free and fair elections. This move destroys EC's impartiality, he posted on X again. Delhi Chief Minister and AAP National Convener Arvind Kejriwal claimed on the same platform that this was a dangerous situation that can impact the fairness of elections. Now, the government is looking at this move basically to prevent the takeover of executive functions by the Supreme Court or the interference on what should be the domain of the executive. It is the government's job to run the government, to implement laws, etc. The Supreme Court, in terms of a conflict, pronounces judgment, can only guide, and laws are made by Parliament. So the government feels that the Supreme Court getting into even appointing CEC, etc., is not to be encouraged, and they came out with this bill. But it runs smack dab into the understanding of the role of the Election Commission, which is to conduct free and fair elections by being above the fray and protected by the Constitution from all those who seek to interfere in their work. Now, during election campaigns, the ECI adjudicates on not just where polling booths should be put up and deployment of central paramilitary forces, but also literally takes over basically the governance of a particular state after the Model Code of Conduct has been announced. And indeed, literally the entire country, they look very closely at the administration. They can also transfer government and police personnel after the Model Code of Conduct has been announced. They also need to step in to stop hate speech during campaigns and voter intimidation and bribery. These are all extremely contested sort of functions in a very, very bipartisan environment that an election engenders. Therefore, while the selection panel itself is not such a big deal, the downgrading of the status of the CEC from a Supreme Court judge to just another senior bureaucrat will raise problems. Elections, to be valid and results being acceptable to all, need to be fair and also be seen as being fair. The new bill, therefore, creates more questions than answers on the way elections are to be conducted in India. This is all I have for you this week. Thank you very much for watching.